What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Glass Less Traveled. My name is Mike Verivi. I'm the founder of the Fox Valley Whiskey Society, and today we have another review for you on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon in December. December 1st, we're officially in Christmas season, folks. After Thanksgiving, I hope you guys all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I myself am full from turkey and stuffing and gravy and rolls and everything that I could possibly shove into my mouth. Today, we're going to be sampling and reviewing Tattersall Distilling Rye Whiskey finished in port wine barrels. Now, this is a rye a whiskey that was sent to me from Tattersall Distilling. It's something that's only available at the distillery. You can't actually find this outside of their distillery in Minnesota. This is something that was sent to me. We're actually working on a barrel pick with these guys of cask strength rye whiskey. Just to my left over here, I've got a lot of samples going out to 10 of our Patreon supporters to help pick this barrel, which will be streamed live on Thursday, December 9th at 8 p.m. So next Thursday at 8 p.m., we're going to be streaming the live tasting of Tattersall Cask Strength Rye to pick our next single barrel. This was sent to me from Dan Oskey, founder of Tattersall, or co-founder of Tattersall Distilling in Minnesota. They're also opening up a new location just across the border in Wisconsin to help increase production. This is one, as you guys can see, it's a little less than half full. Not only have I been drinking it for myself, I've been sampling it for myself, but I've also we'll be sending samples to our Patreon supporters that will be taking part in the Tattersall Cask Strength Rye Barrel Pick. So, without further ado, let's pop this bad boy open. Pour ourselves a small glass. Sample it. Grab my notepad. All right. Let's get going. Now, again, this is something that you guys are not going to be able to find on the shelf at Binny's. You're not going to find it at any of our retail partners like Malloy's or Hammers in downtown Geneva, on the east side of Geneva. This is something, again, that you have to go to the distillery if it's something that you really, really want. It's 100% something that I recommend doing. Maybe this time of year with all the snow, maybe you wait until the spring or summer to make a trip out there. But again, it's something that I absolutely recommend going to the distillery, whether it be in Minnesota or Wisconsin, and checking out. This comes in at 100 proof. I don't know the exact age on this. The mash bill, 85% AC Hazlitt rye, 15% malted rye. So this is 100% rye, as with all of their rye whiskeys. This is 100% rye. Tattersall Port Barrel Rye, barrel-aged rye, aged for 2 years in charred white oak barrels, and another 2 years in used tawny and ruby port barrels. The result, a bold, complex whiskey with notes of nuts, dark fruit, and spice. Sip it neat or in any classics, always in good company. I'm going to post a link. Actually, it'll be right over here. Towards the end of the video with an interview, a live interview that I did with Dan Oskey and one of our Patreon members, John Whitaker, who won the chance to actually be on the live cast, the podcast with us. We actually interviewed Dan Oskey, co-founder of Tattersall Distilling, so I will link that right down here towards the end of the video. So let's dive into this. So the color is really, really deep on this. Really, really wonderful, beautiful color on this rye. Now, as most of you guys know, or some of you guys know, rye whiskey tends to age a little bit better than bourbon. Rye whiskey using a higher rye percentage, it tastes a little bit better at a younger age than bourbon would at that same age. So rye at 2 years old or at 3 years old is going to really taste quite fantastic. Whereas bourbon at 2 years old or 3 years old, sometimes not so much. So rye at a young age is really something special, and it's something to look out for. So let's lower our mic here a little bit. Actually, I'm going to raise it up here a little bit so I can reach underneath it and make my notes. It's going for the nose. Oh, wow, fantastic. So again, this is 100 proof. Just going to put my nose. Man, fantastic. Palate. Finish. So that, first and foremost, that port, that fortified wine, first thing that pops out. But there's this deep plum, and I'm actually going to write, this is going to sound stupid, deep plum. Very rich, very unctuous, syrupy. Deep plum, the port comes through. Port is a very noticeable aroma. It's a fortified wine. This smells syrupy. This smells like it's going to coat the palate and just be real thick and unctuous and viscous. Rich. Deep red fruit. Ripe cherry plum. Oh, wow, that plum. Holy cow. That comes through. Dried plum. So it's more like a prune. So I'm going to write prune. That dried plum note, that prune that comes through is so incredibly noticeable. This is a dessert whiskey. This is not something you're going to sip before a meal. This is definitely not something that you're going to sit and sip probably multiple of, maybe two. Okay. I'm going to set it aside. Finish. Medium long. That prune, that plum is so pronounced. It's just sitting, it's front, side, center, back. So it's a medium long finish. That prune juice, plum is coming through. I don't get it it's not very warm down here. It's warm like right here, but not so much down towards the center. I'm going to sip some water. Again, for those of you who watch these reviews on Wednesday, usually wet my whistle, if you will, just to kind of get those flavor compounds, those little flavor molecules that are sitting on my tongue, my cheeks, the roof of my mouth, that are water soluble. Kind of mix them up a little bit, open up some new notes, let water sit on my tongue, so that when I go in for the second tasting and second nosing, try to pick up some new notes. This is interesting that I'm actually picking up grape. Actually, I guess that's not interesting considering it's finished in port wine casks, like a Concord grape. Prune, Concord grape. I'm going to look at the back of the bottle again. Notes of nuts, dark fruits, and spice. Dark fruits for sure. Now, the nuttiness would come from the age. It's a relatively young age. Nuttiness generally comes from the actual raw distillate itself. Now, I don't get I don't get nuttiness per se, but that dark fruit is definitely coming through. That grape, prune, not so much dried apricot. Get a little bit of a syrup-soaked raisin, like a maple syrup, like raisins that you would soak in maple syrup. So I'm going to write on the nose syrup soaked raisin. Again, we swirl. Let the whiskey coat the side of the Glencairn glass. Dries out a little bit on the side. Some of the natural sugars that are left over in the whiskey stick to the side of the glass, help open up the nose, and then it also helps evaporate some of that alcohol. If I were to rate this right now, honestly, I think this is a fantastic rye. It's very unique. It's very bold. It's very rich. It's got tons of character. For the nose, deep plum, port, grape, syrup-soaked raisins. The palate, rich and deep of red fruit, prune, Concord grape. The finish, medium long. More of that prune is coming in. This is my kind of rye. If you've noticed through the Fox Valley Whiskey Society, we have done a lot of rye barrel picks. I think rye is really kind of up and coming, and I'd love to be a part of that trend and a part of that, the building of rye whiskey back to what it used to be. I absolutely, I think rye whiskey is absolutely fantastic. I think a lot of people have this misconception of rye whiskey because of MGP, that 95.5 Indiana rye, being dill pickle and peppery and just a very unique rye flavor. This 100% rye from Minnesota, a Monongahela style rye, very deep, rich ruby red. Notes of what I find in the regular Tattersall cask strength rye is roasted and toasted notes, things like chocolate covered espresso beans, toasted bread, just very deep and rich cherry cola, Dr. Pepper almost. If I were to rate this one out of 5, because again, I don't like to give 100. I don't like to rate whiskeys on a 100-point scale. I think that does it a disservice and injustice. Out of 5, I mean, this for me, just for my palate and what I like these flavors. I like these deep, rich, the prune, the deep red fruit, the Concord grape, syrup-soaked raisin. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say 4.5 out of 5. I think it could be just slightly more complex. I don't particularly like the wood, oaky notes in rye. Bourbon, that's great, but in rye, I want to taste those fruity notes. I want to taste that spice, that unctuousness, those deep roasty, toasty notes. I think there could be a little bit more here. I think there's a little bit more to be desired on the finish. I think that prune plum flavor comes through from the port wine just a little bit too much, maybe a little bit more restrained, and I think this would be, a solid 4.75. Nearing a 5, nearing almost for me a perfect rye. The nose is absolutely fantastic. This is definitely one. Is it worth the hype? Should you buy it? Yes, 100%. I do not know. I do not know what the MSRP is on this bottle. Again, this was sent to me directly from the distillery. So what my rating has I'm not trying to say you should go to the distillery and go buy it because, they sent this to me for free. I'm going to give an honest opinion, even though we are doing a barrel pick with them very soon. There is a little bit more to be desired. Like I said, I wish the finish was just a little bit longer. I don't know what the MSRP is, so I can't really comment on, whether it's worth the price. If I were to guess what the price is, I say this is probably around being a port wine, I think the regular MSRP for their cask strength rye goes for about $40, somewhere around there. If I were to guess on the MSRP, I'm going to say probably $60 to $70 for this MSRP at the distillery. Distillery is almost always higher than what the retail partners are going to be. 50% alcohol, 100 proof, finished in port wine barrels. I mean, honestly, if this was a $70 bottle, all day, I'd buy it. For me right now, 4.5 out of 5. I wish the finish was just a little bit longer. I wish that prune note, that port wine note, was just a little bit more restrained. I think maybe a little bit less time in the port barrel would actually do this whiskey a solid. That being said, knowing Dan Oskey, knowing that him and his partners, they distill this on their own, knowing that Dan Oskey was a bartender prior to this whiskey in particular is perfect for cocktails. Actually, after this, it's very likely that I'm going to make an old fashioned with this particular whiskey. I will let you guys know what I think of it in the comments below. Guys, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for joining me with this review. Again, this has been the Tattersall port wine finished straight rye whiskey, 100% rye out of Minnesota. Feel free to comment. I'd love to see your reaction. If any of you guys have had anything from Tattersall, make sure to subscribe and like this video. And I will see you guys next week with a new review. Cheers.